The Holy Grail is one of the most famous mysteries in history. It's been the subject of countless books, movies and debates. Many believe it to be a cup or chalice, the same one Jesus used during the Last Supper. Others think it's more symbolic, representing spiritual truths or eternal life. Recently there have been claims that the real Holy Grail has been found. But is this true? Let's explore what's been discovered and what it could mean. The Holy Grail is often described as a sacred object linked to Jesus Christ. According to Christian tradition, it's the cup he used during the Last Supper. Some stories also say it was used to collect his blood during the crucifixion. This makes the Grail incredibly significant to Christians. Over the centuries, the Grail has been surrounded by legend. In medieval literature, knights like those in King Arthur's court searched for it. It was said to have magical powers. Some believed it could grant immortality or heal the sick. These tales mixed history and myth, making the Grail even more mysterious. Now some researchers claim to have found the Holy Grail. This discovery was reported in Spain. A chalice in the Basilica of San Isidoro in the city of Leon has been identified as a possible candidate. Historians Margarita Torres and José Ortega del Rio wrote a book about their findings. They say this chalice has a history that matches descriptions of the Grail. The chalice is made of onyx and gold. It is decorated with jewels. The researchers traced its origin back to Jerusalem. They believe it was brought to Spain by Muslim traders in the 11th century. Over time, it ended up in the possession of Spanish royalty. The researchers used historical texts and artifacts to support their claim. They studied ancient Arabic documents that mention a special chalice. These texts say the chalice was taken from Jerusalem to Cairo. Later, it was given as a gift to the Christian king of Leon. The timeline seems to match. The chalice in Leon dates back to the 1st century, the time of Jesus. Its connection to Jerusalem and its importance to early Christians add to the mystery. The researchers believe this is enough evidence to suggest it could be the Holy Grail. Not everyone agrees with these claims. Many scholars are skeptical. They point out that there have been many other so-called Holy Grails. Over 200 chalices around the world have been linked to the Grail legend. How can we know which one, if any, is real? Critics also question the reliability of the evidence. The Arabic texts are intriguing, but they are not direct proof. There is no record of anyone identifying this chalice as the Holy Grail before the 11th century. Some argue that the connection to Jesus is more symbolic than literal. Another issue is the lack of physical evidence. We have no way to confirm that Jesus actually used this chalice. Carbon dating and other scientific methods could help, but these tests have not been done. Without this kind of proof, it's hard to say for sure. Even if this chalice is not the real Holy Grail, it's still significant. The Grail represents more than just a physical object. It symbolizes faith, hope, and the search for God. For many, the story of the Grail is about spiritual transformation. It's a reminder to seek what truly matters in life. The Grail also reflects the Christian idea of sacrifice. Jesus gave his life for humanity. The chalice, as a symbol of his blood, reminds believers of this sacrifice. It's a powerful image, whether or not the actual cup exists. This is not the first time someone has claimed to find the Grail. In the 12th century, a French poet named Chrétien de Troyes wrote about it. His story inspired others to search for the Grail. Over the years, many places have been linked to it. One famous claim is linked to Glastonbury, England. Some believe the Grail was brought there by Joseph of Arimathea. Another claim points to Valencia, Spain, where a chalice in the Cathedral of Valencia is thought to be the Grail. Both of these claims have their supporters and skeptics. There are also more modern interpretations. Some think the Grail is not a cup at all. Instead, they see it as a metaphor for hidden knowledge or spiritual enlightenment. This idea has inspired writers and filmmakers to create their own versions of the Grail story. The Holy Grail captures the imagination because it's tied to deep questions. Who was Jesus? What did his life and death mean? The Grail, as part of his story, invites us to think about these things. It also represents a mystery. Humans are drawn to the unknown. The search for the Grail is like the search for answers about life and faith. This is why it's been such a powerful symbol for so long. The discovery in Lyon has sparked new interest in the Grail. Researchers may study the chalice further. They could use technology to learn more about its age and origins. This could provide more clues about its connection to Jesus. Even if it turns out not to be the real Grail, the discovery is still important. It's a piece of history that helps us understand the past. It also keeps the story of the Grail alive, inspiring new generations to explore their faith. Did they find the real Holy Grail? We may never know for sure. The chalice in Lyon is fascinating, but it's just one of many candidates. What matters more is what the Grail represents. It's a symbol of faith, sacrifice, and the search for truth. The mystery of the Holy Grail will likely continue. And maybe that's a good thing. Mysteries remind us that there is always more to learn. They keep us searching, not just for objects, but for meaning. Whether or not the Grail is ever found, its story will remain a powerful part of human history.